Good morning. Welcome to our new lesson for today under Understanding Culture, Society, and Politics. I'm so happy and thrilled to teach you about the broadness of sociology. This is lesson 4, Sociology and the Study of Society. Our learning objectives for today are: you can identify the subject of inquiries and goals of sociology, describe society as complex whole, identify aspects of culture and society, raise questions toward holistic appreciation of societies, and recognize the value of sociology for the 21st century. What is sociology? Sociology, from the etymology of socius and logi, which means the science of social phenomena. It is originally called as social physics. Sociology is a branch of social sciences that deals with scientific study of human interactions, social groups and institutions, whole societies, and the human world as such. Sociology also addresses the problem of the constitution of the self and the individual, but it only does in relation to larger social structure and processes. So therefore, it is a science that studies the relationship between the individual and the society as they develop and change in history. As for additional information, Isidore Auguste Marie François Xavier Comte is considered as the father of sociology. He is a French philosopher and mathematician who coined the term sociology, but he originally used social physics as a term of sociology. Sociology focuses on how social relationships influence people's attitude and behavior, how major social institutions affect us, and how we affect other individuals, groups, and organizations. Ngayong alam na natin ang focus ng sociology, paano naman natin siya magagawa? Una, kailangan mong gumamit ng common sense to understand human populations and their different activities. Medyo challenging. Paano siya magiging accurate? Kailangan mo siyang i-test para makapag-provide ng conclusion by sociological perspective. Maraming nasasagot ang common sense. Pero, ang common sense ay prone to overgeneralization, inaccurate observation, and illogical reasoning. Kagaya ng, ang mga tao ba na mahihirap ay tamad? O ang mga Chinese Filipino ba ay mas magaling sa mga pagsagot ng math kumpara sa ibang average Filipinos? Or pag nakita ba nating dumilim ang langit, uulan agad? Sa kabila ng doubt natin sa common sense, ito ay kinukonsidera as bedrock of science. Science starts with common sense, but goes beyond common sense. Pag-aaralan natin mamaya ang two basic methods in social science o ang social research na ginagamit para maging accurate or makapag-interpret tayo ng iba't ibang phenomena. Let's proceed to different sociological perspective. In 1959, Charles Reed Mills, an American sociologist and professor of sociology at Columbia University, coined the phrase sociological imagination. It refers to the ability of sociologists to understand society systematically. This ability involves the process of detaching oneself from the common understanding of society and creates an alternative approach that would situate a behavior or an event within a great social framework. He argued that this imagination could be a conceptual tool by which people could unpack the maladies of their society and address them. Alam ko medyo naguguluhan kayo kung paano ina-apply itong sociological imagination na to. Pero this concept of sociological imagination can be applied to any behavior. Like for example, a simple act of drinking cup of coffee. We could argue that coffee is not just a drink, tama ba? But rather, it has a symbolic value for us or for many, kagaya ko, coffee lover ako, as part of a day-to-day social rituals. And often, the rituals of drinking is much more important than the act of consuming coffee itself. Sige, let's give another example. Pero dahil coffee lover ako, yun yung gamitin nating example for today. So, meron ka kaibigan na matagal mo nang hindi nakita or nakachat and niyaya mo siyang mag-coffee. Tara, coffee tayo. You are not pertaining na masarap kasi yung kape doon tayo tumambay. You are pertaining na tara, let's meet, let's have a drink, and let's chat. In all societies, eating and drinking are association for social interaction. Magkape tayo, makipagkwentuhan tayo sa iba, and that social interaction will be discussed later on. And the performance of rituals, kagaya na sinabi ko kanina na it is a social rituals na hindi lang siya basta iniinom natin dahil kailangan natin siya. Naging ritual na natin na gawin natin isang bagay dahil meron tayong, other than that, meron tayong gustong gawin, which offer a great deal of subject matter for sociological study. Another sociological perspective when it comes sa pagiging coffee lover, yon, or other dimension of a cup of coffee has to do with the use as a drug. Coffee maintains caffeine, which is a drug that has stimulating effect on the brain for many, and this is why they drink coffee. It is interesting, sociologically question, bakit ang kape nakaka-addict pero hindi siya kinoconsider as drugs or drug users in Western cultures? Though they might be in other cultures like alcohol, coffee is socially acceptable drug, whereas marijuana is not. And sa ibang culture naman, ang marijuana ay ginagamit as medicine and tolerable siya, but both coffee and alcohol consumptions frowned upon. Parang, ano ba? Anong pinagkaiba nun? Another dimensions or perspective when it comes to coffee is a cup of coffee is tied to social economic relationship. The growing packaging, distributing, and marketing of coffee are global enterprises that affect many cultures, social groups, and organizations within those cultures. So, nagkakape tayo hindi dahil masarap doon. Nagkakape tayo doon sa lugar na yun kasi sikat yun. Maybe galing yun sa ibang bansa or trending siya ngayon. And these things may often take thousands of miles away from the coffee drinker. Many aspects of our lives are now situated within globalized trade and communications, and studying these global transactions is important to sociologists. Let's proceed to two parts of sociological imagination. We have the personal troubles and public issues. These two parts of sociological imagination are concept that you can apply to any behavior, kagaya ng pinag-usapan natin kanina na about sa coffee lovers. An example of personal trouble are like not having enough money to pay our bills. And another example naman ng public issues are the results of social problems that course through the society and affect many, like systematic economic inequalities or structural poverty na nagiging issue para sa nakakarami. Here are the benefits of the sociological perspective. Number 1, the sociological perspective help us assess the truth of common sense. The sociological perspective help us assess both opportunities and constraints in our lives. It also help us to empower to be active participants in our society. Sociology can help us understand the questions of what, why, and how public issues and personal troubles arises. The sociological perspective help us to live in diverse world, and it also encourages us to realize that society guides our thoughts and deeds to see the strange in the familiar. Kailan ba naging prominent or nakilala ang sociological perspective? Nakilala ang sociological perspective dahil sa rapid changes in social and economic structures na nanggaling sa French and Industrial Revolution in Europe. Kaya ito nakilala bilang isang sociological perspective in the field of social sciences. We are now heading to different sociological concepts. Just like anthropology, sociology also has discipline-based concepts that aid in the understanding of human behavior in groups. And the basic concept that sociology interprets is the society. Society can be defined as a product of human interactions as humans subscribe to the rules of their culture, and it is an organization that caters to a human needs for belongingness in a group. Here are the different comparison of theories and societies from the different sociologists, philosophers, and their advocacies. Have you noticed that there are common terms that surfaced in these definitions? Yes, there are social, structure, function, complex, collective, relationships, symbols, exchange, behavior, institutions, and system. Nangangalahati na tayo sa lesson natin. And what have you learned so far? Maaari mo munang i-pause ang video na ito para masagutan ang mga sumusunod na katanungan. Let's proceed to the other concept of sociology, which is social interaction. What is social interaction? It is a reality or the process by which people act and react in relation to others. Like for example, tayo sa online class, or when you're dancing, converse to others, fight with someone, or yelling. It is a basic concept of sociology that you can interpret and understand the human behavior and their groups in the society. It is also a compilation of ways and means by which humans interact with each other within the society. The prevailing culture within a society dictates a form of interaction used by individuals with one another. It means the interaction is not merely defined by an actual physical contact, pwede tayo as online or communicating using social media or other forms of it, as it covers every human interchange that is within a mutual or subjective orientation. This implies that as long as the parties involved and aware of each other, interaction is possible. Ngayon, suriin naman natin bilang isang example, itong nasa picture na public protest. Ito ay nangyari noong July 27 sa UP Diliman na dinaluhan ng 12,000 na mga relihista. Ano-ano ang mga dialogo or interaction na nangyari noong araw na ito? Number 1, nagkaroon sila ng dialogue or interactions with the other protesters sa kung ano ang stand nila regarding sa issue. Pangalawa, ay nagkaroon din sila ng interaction between the protesters and the government representatives sa pamamagitan ng kanilang mga ginawang plaka at kanilang mga pagsigaw. Nagkaroon din ng interaction between the protesters at mga police at mga politicians or media personnel na nag-cover ng mga rally na yan. And lastly, nagkaroon din ng interaction between the protesters and the different sectors and organizations na involved. Meron tayong iba't ibang points or elements para ma-consider natin na ito ay isang social interaction. Kapag nakita natin na may social interaction, automatic yun. Meron yung social organization. Social organization composed of 3, namely, roles or status, group, and institutions. Social organization refers to the interrelationship of parts of society. Position created within a society constitute the category of our status. Maybe include me as your teacher, you as a student, or a son or daughter, or being a parent. Minsan ba naisip mo na bakit kapag tinatanong ka ng teacher mo, kailangan mo sumagot? Because that is rules. Rules is a status prescribed a set of behavior that defines the individual responses and inclination. Like for example, it is normal na magtuturo ako inside the classroom. Sasagot ka pag tinatanong ka, mag-aaral ka dahil nasa paaralan ka. Pero kapag ang teacher mo ay nagtuturo sa loob ng mall, parang may mali. Di ba? Another example is the role of government official to ensure that the people's needs are addressed through government projects and policies. Kasi nagbabayad kami ng tax. Kasi Filipino citizen tayo. If the government official fails to perform this role, then a conflict occurs as the norm was not followed. Medyo awkward. In some instances in our country, government officials were evicted from their positions or statuses dahil hindi nila nagagawa ang trabaho nila or dahil hindi nila nagagawa yung ine-expect na dapat ay roles nila. Let's proceed to achieve status and ascribe status. Achieve status is earned, accomplished, and obtained with a least some effort of the person's part. Like for example, being a politician, CEO, or being a teacher, or etc. And another is ascribed status, whereas the person has no choice and they are either assigned at birth or assigned involuntarily in later life. For example, tayo bilang isang Filipino, kung maitim ang balat mo or maputi, or kung ano man ang races natin, it is an ascribed status. Kung ikaw ay panganay or bunso. Another is group. It involves at least two individuals who are in constant interaction based on their status and roles. It is a basic unit of an organization. Like for example, in our school, typically consists of two or more groups. Like, I am your teacher, and you are my students. You interact with us based on your role as student. Kaya pag tinatanong ka, at sagot ka, may pinapagawang activity si teacher, magpapasa ka. Ganon. Hence, your manner of speaking and content of your statement are different when you are interacting with your classmates and when your other members or faculty members. Ibig lang nun sabihin ay ibang klaseng tao tayo depende sa group na sinasamahan natin. Iba tayo kapag nasa church tayo o kasama natin mga friends natin sa church. Iba tayo kapag kasama natin ng mga classmates natin. At iba din tayo kapag nasa loob na tayo ng bahay natin at kasama ang family natin. Doon din natin na-differentiate ang appropriate or inappropriate depende sa formality or informality ng environment na meron tayo. Let's proceed to the institutions. It is established when roles, statuses, and groups are perpetuated within the context of society. Ibig sabihin, ito ay lugar or place. Institutions are building blocks of society, as it true that these norms are produced from the consistent exchange of individuals and groups. Family, marriage, education, religion, government are examples of institutions. To be more specific, the concept of parent and child as a family is well established as an institution in the Philippines. As such, activities that do not conform to the prescribed behavior of individuals toward the creation of a family are frowned upon by the society. These activities include abortion, separation of spouses, and extramarital affairs. Social structure and agency. It is the relationship among the people and groups. Or whenever you find a social interaction, kagaya ng social organization, you will also find a social structure. It is a common analogy used to describe social structure and the elements of society is that of a building. What is building? Why building? The building in itself can be considered as the society, or the pillars and foundation of the building is equated to the social structure. Building is equated to social structure? Parehas lang? Bakit hindi na lang pinag-isa? Remember that these parts provide the general framework of the building. This determines different heights, width, and shape. What provides a building with its design and body are the institutions, statuses, groups, and roles. Ibig sabihin, the concept of culture can be equated to the concept of social structure. Bakit nga hindi na lang pinag-isa? Parehas lang din naman pala sila ng functions or capacity. This is also to say that culture defines the norms, values, institution, groups, and individual behavior within the society. Ibig sabihin, we have the tendency to make and remake or build a new norms or culture kapag nakikipag-interact tayo with different institutions or in different groups or in different people. We have that kind of power pala. Kung meron tayong tendency to make and remake the world, meron din tayong tinatawag na agency. Ano naman yung agency? It is defined as individual or groups reflecting, acting, modifying, and giving significance to the teaching of science in purposeful way. Ibig sabihin, agency is action-oriented. Ayan. Matatapos na tayo sa lesson natin ngayong araw. Maaari ba nasagutin niyo muli ang mga tanong? I-pause niyo po ang video na ito para makapagbasa kayo at makapag-aral pa kayo bago niyo ito sagutan. You are a future sociologist or you can conduct a social research someday, maybe. And here are the methods and techniques that you can use to interpret and understand the different phenomena or group of people. We have the quantitative and qualitative method. There are two primary methodological perspectives in sociology. You can use positivist and anti-positivist. Let's proceed to positivist orientation. It is perceived society as quantifiable subject from which objective conclusions can be made. A positivist perspective uses methods employed by the natural sciences to understand social phenomenon. It was Auguste Comte to introduce this perspective, making into consideration that society is like an organism that could be measured through logic and mathematics. At this orientation is disposed to statistical analysis, quantitative method such as surveys are employed by sociologists to map social phenomenon. Alternately, you can use the anti-positivist orientation. It promotes a subjective approach wherein social phenomena are understood through individual experiences. With this, it encounters the positivist assumption that general laws can be made to understand human behavior, and this such orientation requires qualitative methods in gathering data such as interview, participants' observations, and the other tools of ethnography. For our last topic for today, we have the value of sociology for the 21st century. Gaano naging kahalaga ang sociology sa panahon natin ngayon? Sociology was established at a time when society was changing drastically due to the technological and political development way back 18th century. Contemporary society is constantly facing reality-altering development not just in technology but also in its environment as brought about by climate change. Nagkakaroon ng pagbabago-bago when it comes to society and culture dahil sa pagbabago ng technology. That's why sociology finds its value today in providing us with a conceptual tool in understanding in plight of human as they adapt to their varying environments and social conditions. And lagi nating tandaan na society is in constant process of change. Okay, that is all for our today's lesson, and we have learned the sociology, the studies of societies, promote social change, create new theories, and document human behavior. We also learned the sociology help us to look more objectively at our society and other societies. And it directs attention to how the parts of society fit together and change as well, and make us aware of the consequences of that social change. We are facing with an ever increasingly complex and rapidly changing social milieu, and using the different methods and conceptual tools we are we have learned to understand also the different group attitudes, values, behavior in different social interactions, social groups and institutions. By focusing on the external forces that affects attitude, behaviors, and values, sociology help us better understand ourselves also and the motivations of the others around us. So thank you for paying attention for today's lesson, and good day. See you next time.